Well, the Broadcasting, Electronic Media and Allied Workers Union, BEMAWU, yesterday engaged its lawyers to interdict the South African Broadcasting Corporation from executing retrenchments. And this follows the announcement made by the public broadcaster informing its staff that all redundant employees would have received communication by tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Communication Workers Union, CWU, has organized workers to picket outside SABC offices throughout the country. CWU's General Secretary Aubrey Tshabalala and BEMAWU's President Buisson join us now to share their perspectives on what's happening at the SABC. Gentlemen, good morning. Thanks for speaking to us.
Good morning to you. Thanks for having us.
Aubrey, and let me start with you. So on Friday, the SABC sent out communication that letters will be issued to redundant staff. Are you aware of any of your members having received those letters as yet?
Yes, indeed, we are aware. As from yesterday, letters were coming in drips and drops from various departments and a number of workers. So they have already initiated the letter of termination from the SABC side.
So do you know how many of your members have been issued with letters, and how many are you expecting to receive such letters?
We are in a process as we speak now, because they're coming from various departments, and we are certain that not everyone has already forwarded their letters. So we have not come to a conclusion in terms of the figure itself of how many workers have been affected.
Hannes, on your side, from BEMAWU's perspective, those letters, and also, once again, how have those letters been received by your members?
Well, we have received quite a few letters from members. What is peculiar about those letters are that the fact that they are worded differently. Some letters is terminating the services of employees, which is contrary to what the SABC has said they will do. Other people were told that their position is redundant. So that is what the SABC has indicated in the process that they will do, is to first indicate which positions are redundant and then give employees an opportunity to apply for positions, and only thereafter they will issue termination letters. Again, they have put the cart before the horses, and they have issued termination letters. The SABC staff also understood that to be in that way, so we dealt with quite a number of shocked people yesterday who received those letters. They were totally unsure what to do, and we are advising them. And as you've rightly said, we have engaged our lawyers. We are going back to the Labour Court on an urgent basis, and we should receive communication about the date from the registrar either today or tomorrow.
Now, Hannes, the unions and the SABC were part of this consultation process that was facilitated by the CCMA. And according to the SABC, they say there were 16 sessions and that the process was actually fruitful. But it seems as though the unions disagree. So what are those areas of contention?
Well, it seems the SABC is saying the number of meetings would constitute proper and full consultation, and that is incorrect. In law, that is incorrect. Some of those meetings never took place. Some of those meetings were not part of the consultation, and some of those meetings only lasted for an hour and even shorter, due to the fact that the SABC did not provide information in time, and that they have agreed to postpone those meetings. The last meetings, there was an agreement when we started off, and this will be presented in court, where there was an agreement. The SABC will present its rationale and thereafter its structure, and then we will be able to go back to members and get their input and engage the SABC on that input. That has not happened. When the SABC presented its, on the last day, the structure, the SABC COO categorically and very clearly said, we are not going to consult any further. We all understand what that means. So the invitation for proposals and all of that, according to the SABC, did not form part of consultation, and that is what we want to do. We want the Labour Court to order the SABC to withdraw those termination letters and to sit down and properly consult with us on those structures and get proper input from members.
Aubrey, last week the SABC had a general meeting with employees and the final structures were made available to staff. Are these final structures what was presented to unions at the CCMA? And if not, what are the differences, if any?
Well, thanks for that question. In fact, the structures that have been introduced to workers is not the same as the structures that were introduced at the CCMA. And I'm saying structures because SABC has been changing its corporate plan from time to time during the consultation process. And there are significant differences. I'll talk about, for example, what we call a sound desk, where it actually has to do with your monitoring the current affairs on TV and radio. That has been cut. If you look at that, what does it mean? It means that there was no significant consultation on that process and how it will be replaced. But more importantly, it will mean that on the commercial side, on those radio stations such as Radio Good Hope, Metro FM, and so forth, they will lose their current affairs as things stand in terms of the structure, which will tell you that now they will shift the Metro FM, Radio Good Hope, and the 5FM basically to commercialization, and it will lose the public mandate will have been compromised. But furthermore, there's introduced some other structures. Amongst others is digital TV and digital radio, those which were not actually talked about at the consultation process. So it shows you that there's a series of flawed issues in the process itself, which also will compromise the standing of a public broadcaster in South Africa today, as we know it, which will be something else going forward. But also going into detail, if we talk about this structure, it further marginalizes many other indigenous languages. In the current affairs, I'll talk about the news space. In the current affairs, we know that in Afrikaans, in Nguni, also in English, the current affairs program has still been maintained, such as Focus, such as your Cutting Edge, and so on. But if you look at the Tsonga and Venda, those have been eroded, meaning that instead of SABC going forward, becoming a truly reflected public broadcaster which address all demographics of this country, it has now shifted its own post and is now going to commercialize and is now going to marginalize all the indigenous languages that might have been viewed as non-commercial viable.
Hannes, one of the other issues, and the unions are charging that the SABC hasn't been transparent and that the process has been imposed from top down. And you also say that it's targeting everybody except senior managers. So to what extent is the SABC executive and senior management affected by this process?
Well, absolutely not. And that is an important point that we raised at some point in time. And shortly thereafter, we have sort of experienced the attitude that we currently are seeing being displayed by management. When the presentation was made, it was said that the SABC is no longer a group of companies. It is now, so there is no need for any titles to be like a group executive of human resources, a group chief executive, and so on. So we agreed with that particular issue, and we then said to the SABC that similar to what they are doing to staff members, that means that their own positions must also be re-evaluated, and likewise they must apply for those positions. Initially they have agreed, it is on record, they've agreed this is exactly what will happen. Later during the process they simply said this is not going to happen. Now our argument was that if you are appointed as a group executive, it means that you are appointed for a group of companies. That means that your salary and seniority is different from a normal director that is not part of a group of companies. So it follows that those positions must be reviewed and that those people must apply and reapply for their position. So those are the kind of issues that we have found during the process, where at some point in time the SABC agreed, and then further down the line they simply said that they are not going to do that. One of the other issues that is, for instance, in the latest communication that was sent out yesterday, in the so-called Q&A, the SABC said that everyone can apply for vacant positions. Whilst the law is very clear, there's a duty on the SABC first to redeploy people, and only thereafter, if there are vacant positions, then other staff can apply. Because what is the use and purpose if you let everyone apply for vacant positions? How do you then stop the reduction of people, and how do you avoid the dismissal of people if that is what you do? So those things have changed dramatically from what the SABC said. On record, the SABC said during the consultation process that employees will first, the affected employees will first apply for positions, and only when there is a surplus of positions, then that is other employees can apply. We disagreed with them at that point in time, saying that there is a duty to redeploy first into positions. But all of this will be challenged in the Labour Court.
So from your side as CWU, Aubrey, you've asked as unions for meeting with the SABC board for further engagement, but of course instead the retrenchment process seems to be in full swing. Does this mean that all forms of engagement have now been exhausted?
Well, not only exhausted, but there's a huge element of total sheer arrogance, and not only responding to the alternatives that we have given, both as BEMAWU and CW. They fail to respond in anything, which is what is required by the law. So it shows you the type of management that we have. But having said that, we are very happy that BEMAWU has taken the matter to Labour Court. As CW, we are now starting a build-up towards a total, completely shutdown of SABC. Why we are saying that is that because we want to satisfy all the requirements of the law, so that workers, when they embark on an action, they are fully protected, both freelancers, be it non-union members and union members, will be freely to join that. So it's very important that we indicate to arrogant management that those who turn the wheels of economy through their sweat and toils are workers, and should be workers not be considered in such important issues, there will be problems. We are saying this because we have raised the issue of skills audit. We have said that if this structure was proposed in the 189, Section 189, we had been in a position to say, how then do you redeploy people into those digital platforms? How then do you reskill and upskill them in the process? And all that has not been done. So it shows that a government institution, whilst our government is talking about creation of jobs, is in the forefront of termination of employment in a country where the stats have just been released. Over 11 million workers are looking for jobs, and they cannot find any jobs. And therefore, it is very important that a parliament should react to this, because it's not only about individual at SABC, it's also about the nation that has been compromised because SABC is moving away from its public mandate.
Well, thank you so much to CWU's General Secretary Aubrey Tshabalala and BEMAWU's President Buisson for talking to us about their intention to stall the SABC's retrenchment process. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of that, we'll be speaking to SABC's Chief Operations Officer.